The gun appeared at dinner, not hidden under napkin, not implied through gesture. A Smith & Wesson .38 special placed directly on the white tablecloth, between the wine and the bread, pointed at Marlon Brando. Salvatore, Sal, Tessio pushed it forward with one finger. Gambino family captain. The kind of man who dissolved bodies in acid and slept fine after. This is from Carlo, Tessio said. Carlo Gambino, the name that made federal judges nervous. He wants you to understand something. 20 minutes ago, Brando had been eating alone at Patsy's, East Harlem, his favorite corner table. Now 3 Gambino soldiers surrounded him, one at the door, one behind his chair, one, Tessio, sitting across from him with a loaded weapon between the pasta plates. The restaurant had emptied in seconds. Owner vanished, waiters gone, even the cook had abandoned his kitchen. When the Gambino family wanted privacy, New York provided it. I don't know any Carlo, Brando said. Fork still in hand, still cutting his veal. Like guns appeared at dinner every night. Sure you do. Tessio lit a cigarette. Casual, relaxed. The gun stayed where it was. You've been asking about him, about his business, about his family structure. Real specific questions to real specific people. This was about the FBI meetings. 3 conversations with federal agents about organized crime. About how the 5 families really work. Research, Brando had called it. For future roles. For understanding. Now that research had a gun pointed at his chest. I'm an actor, Brando said. I study human behavior. Some humans don't like being studied. The soldier behind Brando shifted. Leather creaking. Hand moving inside jacket. Ready. The one at the door checked the street through glass. Professional paranoia. They'd done this before. See, Mr. Brando, Tessio continued, smoke curling between them. Carlo respects what you do. The movies. The art. He even liked that one where you played the biker. What was it? The Wild One. Right. The Wild One. Johnny Strabler. Tough guy. Leather jacket. Real rebellious. Tessio smiled without warmth. But that was pretend tough. This, he tapped the gun, this is real tough. Different thing entirely. Time was burning. Every second the weapon stayed visible increased the chance of mistakes. Of witnesses. Of some drunk wandering in and seeing too much. But Tessio didn't seem worried. The Gambino family owned these blocks. Owned the cops who patrolled them. Owned the silence that surrounded them. What does Carlo want? Brando asked. He wants you to stop being curious. Stop talking to feds. Stop asking about our thing. Stop preparing for whatever role you think you're preparing for. And if I don't? Tessio picked up the gun. Weighed it. Checked the cylinder. All 6 chambers loaded. Then set it down again. Closer to Brando this time. Then we have a different conversation. Shorter. Louder. The kind that ends with your famous face all over tomorrow's tabloids. Actor found dead in restaurant. Very tragic. Very final. The mathematics were simple. The Gambino family killed for less than curiosity. Killed for disrespect. For territorial violations. For looking at them wrong on the wrong day. An actor asking questions about their business structure. That was worth several bullets. I understand the threat, Brando said. But threats don't erase knowledge. I already know what I know. Then forget it. Have you ever tried to forget something on purpose? It's like trying not to think of a white elephant. The harder you try, the more present it becomes. Tessio's eyes narrowed. This wasn't the response he expected. Most men begged, negotiated, made promises they'd break later. Brando was having a philosophical discussion with a gun 3 feet from his heart. You're a strange man, Mr. Brando. I'm an actor. We're all strange. We spend our lives becoming other people. Right now, I'm trying to understand you, how you think, why you're here instead of just killing me quietly. Maybe we like you. No. If you liked me, you'd send flowers. This is something else. This is fear. The word changed the temperature. The soldier behind Brando moved closer. The one at the door turned from the window. Tessio's expression went flat. Careful, he said. You're afraid of something, Brando continued. Not me. I'm nobody. Just an actor who asks questions. You're afraid of what those questions might become. A movie. A character. A mirror held up to your world. We don't go to movies. But everyone else does. 20 million Americans every week. Watching. Learning. Forming opinions. And you can't control that. Can't threaten a movie screen. Can't shoot an idea. The gun sat between them like punctuation. Tessio smoked. Thought. Calculated. You know what your problem is? He finally said. You think too much. In our business, thinking gets people killed. Following orders keeps them alive. In my business, not thinking gets you killed. Artistically speaking, this ain't art, Mr. Brando. This is life and death. Real bullets. Real consequences. You keep asking about the Gambino family, you'll find out how real. A car passed outside, headlights sweeping the restaurant. Everyone tensed. Then darkness again, just city traffic. But it showed the edge they lived on, the constant readiness for violence. "Let me propose something," Brando said. He hadn't touched his wine, hadn't stopped cutting his veal, the performance of calm more important than actual calm. "I stopped talking to the FBI. Immediately. Whatever they want to know about your organization, they learn from someone else. But in exchange, no negotiation. You stop or you die. Simple. Nothing simple. You know that better than anyone. Every action has consequences. Kill me, and those consequences multiply. The FBI wonders why. The press investigates. Other actors get curious about what I was researching that got me killed. You create the attention you're trying to avoid. Logic against bullets. Reason against force." Brando playing the only cards he had. "Maybe," Tessio admitted. "Or maybe you just disappear. Happens all the time in New York. Man goes for a walk, never comes home. Very sad. Very common. Not for Academy Award nominees. The credentials mattered. Fame was armor, thin but real. The Gambino family avoided headlines when possible. Preferred shadows to spotlights. Killing Marlon Brando would bring both. You're gambling," Tessio observed. "So are you. Gambling that threats work better than bullets. That fear controls better than death. Otherwise, why the conversation? Why not just kill me in my apartment? In my car? Anywhere but here, in public, with witnesses who saw you walk in?" The observation landed. Tessio crushed out his cigarette, lit another, buying time while he thought. "Carlo wants to meet you," he finally said. The words changed everything. Underbosses didn't meet actors. Not socially, not professionally. If Carlo Gambino wanted a face-to-face, something bigger was happening. "When?" "Now. Tonight. You finish your dinner, we take a ride. Have a conversation. Come to an understanding. And if I refuse?" Tessio looked at the gun, back at Brando, the meaning clear without words. "Then I guess I'm finishing my veal," Brando said. He ate with deliberate calm, each bite a small performance, showing the Gambino soldiers that their presence didn't affect his appetite. That guns didn't change the taste of food. That threats were just another kind of scene to play. 20 minutes later, they were in a black Cadillac heading to Brooklyn. Tessio in front, Brando in back between two soldiers. No guns visible now, just four men taking a drive. If they passed cops, nothing would seem wrong. If they stopped at lights, no one would notice the passenger was Hollywood royalty being escorted to meet New York royalty of a different kind. The house was modest. Bay Ridge, tree-lined street. Could have belonged to any successful businessman. Which, in a way, it did. Carlo Gambino ran a business. Just one that solved problems with bullets instead of lawyers. Inside, more modest. No flash. No gold fixtures or marble statues. Just comfortable furniture and family photos. The man who controlled half of New York's underworld lived like a suburban grandfather. Gambino himself was small, thin, wouldn't stand out in a crowd. But his eyes, dark, intelligent, missing nothing, belonged to a man who'd survived 5 decades in a business where most barely lasted 5 years. "Mr. Brando," he said, voice soft, Sicilian accent still thick. "Thank you for coming." As if there'd been a choice. As if the gun at dinner had been an invitation instead of a threat. They sat in his living room. Coffee appeared. Cookies. The rituals of hospitality performed even for men brought at gunpoint. Tessio and the soldiers waited outside. This conversation would be private. "You know why you're here," Gambino said. Not a question. Your people explained, with visual aids. A small smile. "Sal can be dramatic, but effective. You stopped eating." "I finished my veal first." "Good. Waste is a sin. In food and in life." The philosophy of a man who'd grown up hungry, who'd built an empire from nothing, who now decided whether famous actors lived or died. "I'm told you're curious about my business," Gambino continued. "About how we operate." "Why?" "I'm an actor. I study people, all kinds of people, to understand how they move, think, speak. It makes my performances more truthful." Truth, dangerous thing in my world. In mine too, but necessary. Gambino sipped his coffee, studied Brando over the rim, seeing something, evaluating. "You know what I think," he finally said. "I think you're preparing for something. A role, a movie about men like me, and you want to get it right. There's no movie, no script, no offer, not yet, but there will be. Hollywood loves stories about men like me. Al Capone, Lucky Luciano, they make us into cartoons. Edward G. Robinson with a Tommy gun. James Cagney dying on church steps. Entertainment for people who've never seen real blood." The criticism was sharp, specific. Gambino watched movies, saw how his world was portrayed, didn't like it. "If such a movie existed," Brando said carefully, wouldn't you want it to be accurate, to show the truth instead of the cartoon? The truth would put people in jail, not the literal truth, the emotional truth, the human truth. What makes a man choose this life? What it costs? What it means? You think you can capture that, with makeup and cameras? I think I can try, if I understand it first. Silence. Gambino set down his cup, walked to the window, looked out at his quiet street, his normal neighborhood, his American dream built on Italian traditions and blood. Let me tell you something about truth, Mr. Brando. The truth is, we're businessmen. We provide services, protection, resolution, order. But the other truth is, we enforce our business with violence. Not implied, not threatened, real violence. Real death. You think you can show that truth without judgment? I don't judge the characters I play. I inhabit them. Even killers. Especially killers. They're the most human. They've crossed lines the rest of us only approach. That crossing changes them, marks them. I'm interested in those marks. Gambino turned from the window. Something had shifted in his assessment. You're serious about this? About understanding? Always. Most men who get curious about our thing want money, or power, or connections. You want understanding. That's unusual. I'm an unusual man. Yes, I see that. Gambino returned to his chair. So, what do we do with you? That seems to be your decision. No, it's ours. Together. You want to understand my world. I want something too. Control. Not of you. Of how we're portrayed. If someone makes a movie about this thing of ours, I want input. Censorship. Consultation. Accuracy. Respect. You show us as we are, not as newspapers pretend we are. Human beings with families. With codes. With reasons. And if I refuse, then Sal drives you home. You forget this meeting. Forget your research. Forget we exist. And we forget you exist. Until you remember again. Then we have a different meeting. Less pleasant. The offer and threat intertwined. Cooperation or elimination. The Gambino way of negotiation. I can't promise a movie that doesn't exist, Brando said. But you can promise that if it does exist, you'll remember this conversation. Remember that we're not cartoons. Not Hollywood inventions. Real men with real concerns about how we're shown to the world. I can promise to remember the truth of this moment. Specific truth. That Carlo Gambino served me coffee instead of bullets. That he spoke of accuracy instead of threatening silence. That he treated me as a professional instead of an enemy. Those truths. Gambino nodded slowly, the negotiation concluding without papers or signatures. Just understanding between men who dealt in different kinds of power. Sal will drive you home. You'll stop talking to the FBI. Not from fear, from respect. And if someday someone offers you a role playing someone like me, you'll remember this coffee, this conversation, this truth. I'll remember. Good. Because I'll remember too. Everything. The drive back to Manhattan was quiet. Tessio smoked. The soldiers stared ahead. Brando watched the city pass. Brooklyn to Queens to the bridge to home. Thinking about truth and threats. About art and life. About the gun that had started the evening and the coffee that had ended it. Back in his apartment, alone, Brando went to his desk. Pulled out a notebook. Wrote down everything. Not names or crimes. Just observations. How Gambino held his cup. How Tessio's eyes never stopped moving. How violence lived under every polite word like water under ice. Years later, when the Godfather script arrived, Brando would remember. Would build Don Corleone not from imagination but from memory. From coffee in Brooklyn. From guns at dinner. From the quiet threat of reasonable men who killed unreasonable enemies. He'd win the Oscar. Create an icon. Change how America saw organized crime. And somewhere in Bay Ridge, an old man would watch the film and nod. Seeing something recognized. Something true. Something that started with a gun on a restaurant table and ended with understanding. The actor had kept his promise, shown the truth, the human truth behind the inhuman business. All because he'd refused to stop being curious even with a weapon pointed at his heart. The eyes that looked at guns the same way they looked at scripts. Tools for understanding the human condition, even when that condition included the possibility of death between the wine and the bread.